I think we have a larger hill to climb because we're interpreted as definitely not fashion. We're looked at as a trend.
When I initially went to a lot of the bigger stores, the big department stores, I got resistance such as take the hang tag off. And I was like, why? They were like, well, there's 4 African Americans on there and we don't want those type of people in our store, or we don't feel like dealing with a lot of shoplifting or shootouts in the store.
I think back in the days, they didn't have the guts to take a chance on hip hop. They never thought hip hop would last.
I came across an ex-post featuring Heron Preston, who stated in an interview that streetwear isn't dead, that it's been absorbed into the broader language of fashion, which means it can no longer function in the same disrupted way that it once did. And that post got people talking. One comment read, streetwear got gentrified and went mainstream like everything else. What's next is that the creators will keep creating with whatever we have at our discretion. Another said, well yeah, that's what happens when a subculture is defined primarily by consumption. It happens all the time. It's just the cyclical nature of culture, consumption, creation, and capitalism. Then there was this one, translation. It went from community to corporate, and now cultures are waiting for the next ill thing so they can once again, yeah. I'm sure you guys know exactly what they meant by that. It's a conversation that has been going on for the last couple of years. Another comment said, these streetwear brands want it all of the money, but still want the underground praise and everything that comes with that. Gotta choose one. And the last comment I want to mention from that long thread, so it's dead. Once it goes commercial, it's dead. It belongs to the world now, not the people. That last one is so true, and it really is the heart of this whole conversation. Streetwear has been underground style for a long time, with stigmas, stereotypes, and strong opinions attached to it for as long as I can remember. So it's wild and honestly a little funny to see how many people are embracing it now that it's been commercialized, especially influencers and the average person who 10 years ago would never have been caught dead in these styles. Now all of a sudden wearing them, also for the likes and follows. But this goes beyond just influencers. It crosses all borders, and especially fashion journalism, which has always carried a racial undertone in its criticism when speaking about streetwear. I will never forget when Kanye West came out with his first fashion show and the criticism that followed. Because why would a black man, a rapper who wore streetwear, dare to think he could be a creative director for his own high-end fashion brand? And despite everything that has been said about him in the media over the last 9 years,
I like some of the Gaga songs. What the fuck does she know about cameras?
the man is a genius. And we will talk about his work later in this video. There's also been this recent wave of people glorifying the style of JFK and Caroline Kennedy, as if there weren't already men like Denzel Washington who had been the pinnacle of that kind of refined, effortless dressing for decades. And that's really the point of this video. For this video, I'm going to focus on streetwear, its origin, who has been carrying the style for decades, and where we are today. Because here's the thing, it's easy to look at streetwear as it exists now and think it just happened, but it didn't. It was built slowly, deliberately, by a community that had no infrastructure, no backing, no permission from the fashion industry, and didn't ask for any.
Ain't no joke. I used to let the mic smoke. Now I slam it when I'm done and make sure it's broke.
Wear street clothes, use the street music and the old school flavor with the echo chambers and make it feel like it's straight out of 1970s in the park, and did it raw.
Streetwear originates from America, specifically from the streets of New York City, from Harlem, from the Bronx, born out of hip-hop culture in the late 1970s and early 1980s. The 70s were an era where personal style was everything. People wore what they loved, what they could find, what they could customize, and make their own. There were no brands catering to this market yet. Nike wasn't what it is today. Adidas wasn't on anyone's radar in that way. People were just dressing for themselves. And in doing so, they were setting trends without even knowing it. And out of that freedom, something revolutionary was born. Hip-hop didn't just create music, it created a whole world. A culture of expression that touched everything. Music, art, graffiti, dance, fashion. As one designer put it, the street was your runway. Hip-hop club culture was the early internet.
What's your friend name again?
That's how people communicated. That's how people saw what you were wearing. If we wanted to know what was fresh, we went outside. The look of hip-hop in those early days was completely self-made. Artists in the late 70s and early 80s were wearing whatever they loved. Cowboy boots with leather pants, suede jackets, spike bracelets. There was no mark for what they were doing yet. They were just being themselves. And because of that, they were accidentally creating the blueprint for everything that came after. Then came the 80s and Harlem. If New York was the capital of hip-hop, Harlem was the capital of style.
Harlem was always the opulence, fur coats, big hats, leather jackets, all that type of stuff.
There's one name that you absolutely cannot tell this story without, and that name is Dapper Dan. Dapper Dan opened his boutique on 125th Street in 1982.
Small store, 500 square feet. And I said, you know what, since I'm going to be catering to hustlers, I'll make my store so it could be open 24 hours.
And what he did was unlike anything the fashion world has seen. He took the logos of Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Fendi.
Reversible fur coats. One side would be fur, and the other side might be Louis Vuitton or Gucci or Fendi. And that's when it just mushroomed into even bigger than what I was in the beginning.
Brands that had no interest in dressing black people, brands that actively did not want black culture associated with their names.
I think we have a larger hill to climb because we're interpreted as definitely not fashion. We're looked at as a trend.
When I initially went to a lot of the bigger stores, the big department stores, I got resistance such as, take the hang tag off. And I was like, why? They were like, well, there's 4 African Americans on there and we don't want those type of people in our store, or we don't feel like dealing with a lot of shoplifting or shootouts in the store.
I think back in the days, they didn't have the guts to take a chance on hip hop. They never thought hip hop would last.
And he made them into something that actually fit the community. Custom outfits, car seats, jackets, all made with those luxury logos, but tailored to the people that luxury brands were ignoring. It didn't knock off. It took what they weren't willing to give and made it into something far more interesting than they were doing with it themselves. Every rapper,
on my chest, I don't need Dapper Dan. I'm gonna tell you the name of this man. He gave by the name of the Dapper Dan. Hey yo, you can ask Dapper Dan, who was the man back in '88.
every athlete, every someone worth being someone in New York was going to Dapper Dan. He was dressing the culture. The luxury brands eventually noticed not to celebrate him, but to rate him. Fendi, backed by young Sanaya, they raided his facilities, issued cease and desist orders, and within what felt like an instant, decades of work were gone.
They raided all my facilities, right? I had a 2,000 square foot factory on 120th Street. I had a 3-story building on 125th Street, and I was open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, never closed. And all of that was like.
But what they couldn't take was the impact. What Dapper Dan started couldn't be undone. Back then, no clothing companies were paying attention to hip-hop artists. A lot of them actively didn't want to be associated with the culture, worried it would push the existing customers away. So the community did what it has always done. It created for itself. The 90s brought the birth of the brands that defined a generation. Cross Colors, FUBU, Brought Us, By Us, Karl Kani, April Walker, Mecca. These weren't just clothing lines, they were statements. When FUBU's founder couldn't get a single bank to back him, turned down by 27 of them, his mother took out a $100,000 loan on the family home so he could make it happen. He then sold $30 million worth of clothes in 3 months. The industry didn't see it coming. It never does.
Known that he would never take his hat off. He was wearing Kangol most of the time. They were probably happy that they were not going to be promoting Kangol or have to put a big piece of tape on it. He wears a FUBU hat. He puts in the rhyme.
GAP gritty, ready to go for us, by us on the low. G.
Tupac wore Karl Kani. He told Karl directly, I'm going to be in your ads, I'm going to wear your stuff, no charge, because it was important to him that black designers were seen.
So I met him at Hotel Nico, which is now the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills in La Cienega. So I went to his room, he's in there typing a script to a movie, and he's smoking blunt after blunt, and he's having a very intelligent conversation with me. Only one problem, the guy never looked at me. He's typing, smoking, talking, very intelligent, but he never looked me in my face. I was like, okay, what's up with this dude? Like, okay, I'm gonna feel him out. But I went there to ask him, would he do a clothing ad for me? I wanted to do an endorsement ad for Karl Kani. So this is back in 95, I believe, or 94. So finally, room service guy came to the door, and I said, okay, here's my point, I'm gonna do it right now. I said, yo, Pop, so like, how much would you charge me to do an ad? He's like, the whole room got quiet. He stopped typing. He just stayed quiet for a minute. I'm like, oh man, I might have messed up now. He goes, I ain't gonna charge you nothing, you black. I don't charge my people for nothing. And the man kept his word. 2 weeks later, he was in New York and we did the photo shoot, and it was game on since then. Just like that, it happened. Just like, and we became best of friends from there. Like that just broke the ice. Like he wanted to do it and I wanted to do it. It was just a matter of somebody asked him and I did it. And
April Walker built an entire menswear brand as a woman in an industry that told her it couldn't be done. Tommy Hilfiger eventually took notice when Snoop Dogg wore his piece on Saturday Night Live in 1994, and sales spiked overnight. That is what the power of this culture has always looked like. And then as hip-hop moved from the inner cities into the suburbs, into the skate world, into the global mainstream, the aesthetic started to shift The late 90s and early 2000s saw streetwear emerge as its own thing, a fusion of hip-hop and skate culture, baggy silhouettes giving way to slimmer fits like LRG, the Hundreds, the Crooks and Castles, building something new from the foundation that urban fashion had laid. And then corporate America arrived, as it always does. Once the money became visible, everyone wanted in. Every rapper had a t-shirt line, every design wanted a hip-hop moment, and the oversaturation that followed slowly hollowed out what made it real. Which brings us to the 2000s, and two names that I said we would come back to, Kanye West and Virgil Abloh. Because to understand what streetwear is today, you have to understand what these two men did. Kanye West had been vocal about his love of fashion from almost the very beginning of his career. As early as 2003, in one of his first public appearances, he said, "This morning I spent a lot of time trying to pick my outfit because I'm really into clothes. I'm going to be the best dressed rapper out in the game."
What was the most extreme case that you see that you ever walk out and see someone that looked exactly like how you dress?
Yeah, man, that's what made me feel the best. That people dress like me. That means that you have an influence more so than just people listening to your music or your records.
And he meant it. His first real attempt at a brand was Pastel, a streetwear line he had been developing since the mid-2000s, alongside a team that included a young Virgil Abloh, Don C, and Kim Jones, who was at the time Louis Vuitton's men's artistic director. The designs were years ahead of their time, blurring the lines between streetwear, Americana, hip-hop, and couture before that combination had even become a conversation in the industry. Pastel never launched. The death of his mother,
anybody does something that much and that long and it's that good, it's gotta pay off. You can't go there and do nothing but blow up. Isn't that fun? The main thing is getting to do something that you really love to do.
the fallout from the Taylor Swift moment at the VMAs.
I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time.
And the sheer weight of everything that was happening around him meant that it was shelved before it ever reached public. But Kanye didn't give up. He went quiet and he got serious. He interned at Gap. He interned at Fendi in Rome, brought with him a friend he had known since 2002, a young architect from Chicago named Virgil Abloh. The two had already been building a creative relationship for the years before they ever set foot in that building. But Fendi was where they were both absorbing the same thing at the same time, watching how the luxury industry worked from the inside, learning everything they could, and quietly forming a vision for what they were going to do next. The internships was just the foundation. In October 2011, he presented DW by Kanye West, named after his late mother, Donna West, a women's wear collection shown at Paris Fashion Week. And this is where it gets interesting for me, because this is the moment I was referring to earlier in this video when I talked about the criticism. He walked into one of the most competitive fashion weeks in the world, on a night that also included shows from Comme des Garçons, and he showed up anyways, nervous in a white t-shirt, putting his work in front of an industry that had never fully accepted him and had been watching him with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism for years. The reviews were not kind. The press picked it apart, the fits, the silhouettes, the choice to show a spring collection dominated by fur and leather. Critics called it unfocused. One review described it as the work of a beginner overreaching. And you could feel in the way those reviews were written that there was something beyond just fashion criticism happening. There was an undertone, a sense that he didn't quite belong there, that he should know his place. What I find remarkable though is that what he did next, he didn't disappear. He came back for fall 2012, banned the critics who had been the harshest to him from the preview, which caused its own controversy. And that collection actually received solid reviews. He was learning in public, which takes a level of confidence and stubbornness that most people do not have. And when the industry still didn't fully embrace him, he didn't try to fit into what they wanted. He went and built Yeezy instead, and rewrote the conversation on his own terms. From that foundation, Kanye went on to develop the Yeezy line with Adidas, a collaboration that redefined what a sneaker could be culturally and commercially. The Yeezy season collections that followed were polarizing in the best possible way. The criticism was loud. People questioned whether he was a real designer. The fashion press, the same fashion press with that long history of racial undertones when it came to black creative in the industry, was not always kind. But the work spoke for itself. The leather jogging pant that he first pitched to Fendi and was rejected became one of the most referenced silhouettes of the early 2010s. The Yeezy 350 became one of the most copied sneaker silhouettes in history.
Came to see construction at our house, and Kanye refuses to get his new white 350s dirty in the dirt, so
Ain't gonna happen.
The man was right, and the industry eventually had to admit it. And then there's Virgil Abloh. Virgil was the son of Ghanaian immigrants. He grew up in Rockford, Illinois. He didn't go to fashion school. He studied civil engineering and then got a master's degree in architecture. Fashion for Virgil was something he arrived at through culture, through music, through his friendship with Kanye, which had been growing since 2002 when the two first met in Chicago, through a deep, genuine love of the way things looked and what they meant. After the Fender internship, Kanye appointed him creative director of his creative agency, Donda. Virgil designed album covers, stage productions, merchandise. He was building a visual language, and in 2012, he launched Pyrex Vision, screen-printed champion blanks with his signature block lettering. That's what he described as more of an art project than a fashion brand. It was polarizing. People questioned whether it was real design, but that was somewhat the point. He was asking what design even meant, what a brand even was. From Pyrex Vision came Off-White in 2016, and Off-White changed things. It occupied what Virgil called the gray area between black and white, between streetwear and high fashion. The quotation marks, the industrial zip ties, the deconstructed approach to iconic references. He wasn't hiding his influences. He was putting them into quotation marks literally and saying, I see this, I know you see this, and I'm making something new from it. Like a hip-hop producer sampling a record, he compared himself to that directly. He saw designs the way hip-hop had always seen music. You take what exists, you remix it, and you make it yours. By 2017, night came knocking. They asked by Virgil to redesign 10 of their most iconic sneaker silhouettes. All 10. The result was, quote, 10. One of the most talked about sneaker collaborations in history. Deconstructed, labeled, recontextualized, resale values went through the roof, and it put Virgil firmly in the conversation at the highest level of the industry. Then in 2018 came the moment that no one in fashion could ignore. Virgil Abloh was appointed artistic director of menswear at Louis Vuitton. The first black designer to hold that position in the brand's history. A kid from Rockford, Illinois, an architect, a DJ, a man who had known Kanye since 2002, who had built something with him from nothing, and who had walked into Fenty with him a decade earlier as an intern, now at the helm of one of the most powerful fashion houses in the world. His first show was held in the gardens of the Palais Royal in Paris. Models walked a rainbow runway. Rihanna was in the front row. Kanye was in the audience. And when the show ended, two men embraced in what became one of the most photographed moments in recent fashion history. Because both of them knew what it meant. They knew where they had come from. They knew what it had taken to get there. And they knew what it meant for every kid who looked like them, who loved fashion, who had been told quietly or loudly that this world was not built for them. Virgil passed away in November 2021 at the age of 41 after a private battle with a rare form of cancer. He never got the years he deserved, but what he left behind is impossible to measure. He proved that streetwear was not a trend, it was not a phase, it was a legitimate creative force with its own history, its own heroes, and its own vision for what fashion could be. And he didn't just prove it with words, he proved it from the inside of Louis Vuitton, one of the most tradition-bound institutions in the entire industry. As he once said, everything he did was for the 13-year-old version of himself. Which brings us back to where we started. Heron Preston saying streetwear has been absorbed into the broader language of fashion, and all those comments saying it's dead. It has been gentrified. It went from community to corporate. And here's what I think about that. They're not wrong, but they're also not entirely right. Because the same thing that happened to hip-hop has happened before. Jazz got absorbed. Rock and roll got absorbed. The culture that black people have built from the ground up has eventually been taken, cleaned up, and sold back to the mainstream without enough credit going to the people who made it. That is not new. That is a pattern. But the other thing that has always been true is this. When the mainstream takes something, the culture that created it doesn't disappear. It moves. It creates again. Finds a new language. That's what happened when urban died and streetwear was born. That's what happened when streetwear got absorbed and designers like Virgil took it into places no one thought it would go. So is streetwear dead? No. It just doesn't belong to one place anymore. And maybe that's the most powerful thing of all. This is Slick Cut. Let me know what you think in the comments. I want to hear your take on this. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
You say the brands are giving you stuff now, right? Why do you think that is?
We're the culture, simple. We're the culture. We can go back to how Hilfiger blew up. We wore Hilfiger, and that's why Hilfiger blew up. Like, hip-hop culture is the #1 selling music and entertainment in America, period. So we control the narrative. What we wear is what people want to wear.